whatever you wish. तो ज्ञान योग का जो महत्व है, इट इज वेरी वेल एक्सप्लेन्ड इन गीता ऑल्सो. In fact, it is the foremost chapter, जो सबसे पहले चैप्टर जिसमें योग का व्याख्यान शुरू किया श्री कृष्ण ने, दूसरे चैप्टर में ही इसका सबसे पहले उन्हें बताया गया. और ज्ञान योग का उन्होंने कंपेयर किया है कि ज्ञान जो है वो जैसे जेल से गर्भ, जैसे मेघ से जल छिपा रहता है, जैसे अग्नि से धुएं से अग्नि छिपी रहती है, इसी प्रकार से ज्ञान भी इस माया से छिपा रहता है. सो इट हैज टू बी अंडरस्टूड दैट व्हाट ही वांट्स टू एक्सप्लेन इन दिस. ही वांट्स टू कन्वे दैट द नेचुरल इंटेलिजेंस is actually there in the whole of universe, but it is covered by certain kind of veil. किसी वो पर्दे से ढका हुआ है. तो जब कृष्ण ने उसको पूछा कि ऐसा क्यों ब्रह्मा ने किया कि आपने ज्ञान बनाया और ज्ञान को किसी आवरण से ढक दिया, ऐसा क्यों किया? So Krishna explains that anything which is precious, the access has to be to only the deserving and very few. Because ये जो योग है वो अमृतत्व के तुल्य है. It is like getting into a form which is much closer and similar to the creator. क्योंकि जो ज्ञान जब एक बार प्राप्त हो जाता है तो उसका वही एक कंपैरिजन है, जैसे कृष्ण ने गीता में भी एक्सप्लेन किया कि ज्ञान योग जब हो जाता है, यानी कि ज्ञान योग की उपलब्धि के बाद बाकी ज्ञानों का, बाकी योगों का प्रयोजन उतना ही रह जाता है जैसे छोटे जलाशयों का प्रयोजन एक बड़े सरोवर को मिलने के बाद खत्म हो जाता है. जैसे नदियों का प्रयोजन समुद्र पर मिलने के बाद समाप्त हो जाता है, इसी प्रकार ज्ञान योग से, ज्ञान के जरिए बाकी सभी चीजों का प्रयोजन, जो यूटिलिटी है, वो रिड्यूस हो जाती है. इट इज नो मोर देयर बिकॉज यू नो एवरीथिंग. यू आर यूटिलाइजिंग योर इंटेलेक्ट टू एनालाइज एंड प्रोपगेट. तो ये तो है ज्ञान का महत्व, जो हमने पहले भी देखा या सुना. अब सांख्य योग इसमें क्या महत्व रखता है? जैसे मैंने बताया था, ये फिलॉसफी क्लास, सांख्य दर्शन जो है, जिसे हम आज की भाषा में फिलॉसफी या दर्शन बोलते हैं, कृष्ण ने इसे सांख्य योग का दर्जा दिया. यानी कि हर एक एफर्ट्स, हर एक कार्य जो हम कर रहे हैं, जो हम अलग से उसमें अपनी ऊर्जा लगाते हैं, जो ऊर्जा हम हर एक उसमें लगा रहे हैं अलग से, उसका कारण उसके महत्व पे ही निर्भर करता है. तो यानी कि योग जो है वो एफर्ट्स यू कैन कंपेयर इट विद. So there are various yogs, Jnana Yoga, Raj Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and there are so many more. So he says that first and foremost, he is explaining this Jnana Yoga, just there is some reason, the importance of it is expressed in the chronological order in which this yoga is placed in Gita. So now we should propound upon the Sankhya Yoga. What is Sankhya Yoga and how we can utilize it in our life, which we live every day, every minute, second, so as to make it more proportionate or proportional to the existence or law of existence. Sankhya Yoga essentially जो हमारे वेद हैं या उपनिषद हैं, उनमें से उसको निचोड़ के निकाला गया है। वैसे तो अलग अलग दर्शन हैं, योग हैं, जैसे न्याय योग, वैशेषिक योग, सांख्य योग, उत्तर मीमांस योग, पूर्व मीमांस योग, योग दर्शन, और उसके अलावा भी जैसे बुद्धिज्म, जैनिज्म, इस्लाम, क्रिश्चियनिटी या सिखिज्म, और आजकल एथीज्म, ये सभी के सभी दर्शन हैं, सभी के सभी योग हैं, जिनके जरिए, जिनके एफर्ट्स करके हम कुछ ना कुछ प्राप्त करना चाहते हैं अपने जीवन में। So let us understand why I am saying this Sankhya Yoga, because Sankhya Yoga has been propounded very well and explained very well in Gita also, and which is most accepted. Or now it is all over the world. It is same. सांख्य योग है क्या? सांख्य योग जनरली जो हम आमतौर पे सुनते हैं, लोग कहना चाहते हैं कि ये क्योंकि संख्याओं पे आधारित है, इसलिए इसका नाम सांख्य योग पड़ा है। ये एक धारणा है, और ये धारणा in Ayurveda itself, in the Ayurveda itself, every author, every person who has tried to explain this Ayurveda has said कि Ayurveda से पहले पदार्थ ज्ञान जरूरी है. You should know the elementary knowledge. Elementary doesn't mean that the basic knowledge, it is the knowledge of the element out of which whole creation has taken place. Like we study, when we want to know biology, we need to know chemistry, we need to know physics, we need to know some mathematics. So as to, utilize those tools to better understand the physiology or physiological functions or mechanical functions of our body through physics, or to calculate the numbers which are acting inside our body. So this whole thing has to be understood. And that's why, as we have before biology, we have in background, we have the chemistry, physics, mathematics, and so many more subjects. Similarly, in this also, we have Sankhya Yoga or the Darshan, Sankhya Darshan, before this Ayurveda, before we actually know ourselves. In the modern science, it is again has been now bought out by many scientists. Most notably, which I follow, the John Hagelin, Sir John Hagelin, noticeable or say most prominent physicist who is working on the theory of unified field, or you call it string theory of creation of universe, which is beyond the classical physics, beyond the mechanical physics, which is coming into the quantum physics and quantum mechanics, and then into the unified field. Similarly, what is now coming out to that is that it is the Vedas, and anything coming out of that, like anything coming out of the seed, will certainly form that kind of tree. Similarly, out of the Veda, the knowledge arises, and the knowledge has to be comprehended before we can do anything in the world. So the Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga actually is based on the Padartha Gyan, yani it is based on the elements. It says there are a total of 25 elements. We will not go into the whole of details because it's a vast subject, and to comprehend it in a vast way will be time consuming. So we'll just go briefly, and slowly as we interact more and more, we will know more and more about it, because it is part of everything what we do. So it is based on the Padartha, 25 Padarthas, like it says you have 10 Indriya, heart, pair, payu, nose, your eyes, ears, something like 10 हैं. और उन इंद्रियों से परे उनकी तन्मात्राएं हैं, the senses behind these sense organs, there are again 10, so 20. So you have 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas and the Tamas, so you have 23, and then you have Manas and the Atma. So whole of 25 things are there, which constitute every being in the universe. Every being is constituted by this. This is what is given in the Sankhya Yoga. How do we practically imply it? इसका यथार्थ रूप क्या है वो मैं आपको इसमें व्याख्या करूंगा, क्योंकि अगर आप उसके यथा रूप में जाएंगे तो शायद उसको समझना इतना आसान नहीं होगा. तो सबसे पहले हम देखते हैं कि अगर हम अपने रिलेशनशिप में लेंगे तो हर चीज का कोई ना कोई एक क्रिएटर होता है और उस क्रिएटर का कोई ना कोई इंटेलिजेंस होता है. बिहाइंड दैट इज अ इंटेलिजेंस. सो देयर इज अ कोडेड थिंग बिहाइंड एवरीथिंग टू प्रोड्यूस समथिंग. लाइक अ सीड इज अ कोडेड entity which once is sowed will give rise to a huge tree out of a very small seed. So that means the seed is the creator, and there is an intelligence embedded in this seed which will lead to the creation of a whole matter or the forms of that intelligence. तो जो वो इंटेलिजेंस है वो that is a very very subtle, which cannot be felt, which is time, not bounded by the time, space. It is not limited by anything, because it is all pervading, it is everywhere. So it is timeless, spaceless, formless. It is such a kind of thing. Now follow me, because if you continue to follow and just keep believing it, you will know that there is all reason. It is a self-explanatory thing, so it will be very easy to comprehend. So from that intelligence, from that code, it has to be converted into the manifested form, like in a computer. So the data has to be then put somewhere else so as to present it and make it visible. वो जो डेटा है, वो जो प्रोसेस है, that is the grosser intelligence which receives that condensed data and starts to form it, make it into a shape. So that subtle intelligence, which is the coded form, is Purusha, termed as Purusha, or it is termed as Brahman in Upanishads, and it is well explained also in Taittiriya Upanishad, which we will take on later. What is Brahman? What is Purusha? How do we relate ourselves to the Purusha, or how do we identify ourselves with the Purusha? We will take it on later. So there is a Purusha, there is intelligence which gives which lends itself to another creator, the thing which will create it, its form. That's called Shakti, or that's called Prakriti. So you have a system of in Sankhya Yoga, the Purusha and Prakriti. Now this Prakriti has gained all of the codes inside it in form of the seed, and it once comes into the contact of the suitable environment, it germinates, sprouts, and takes the form. That is the matter. So the energy condenses itself and take a form of matter. Those matters are everything what we see. Anything which is visible is matter. Not visible is, but can be felt, is energy, and which cannot be even felt is the intelligence. So now we have seen that from that coded language, there is somebody who is creating like a RAM in the computer, which is making the data available for presentation on the screen. So this form or the matter is the screen which is visible to all of us. सबको हमें नजर आ रहा है. उसी को वो माया कहते हैं. That is the Prakritic world visible to us. It is the whole cosmos. The application is same. अब जब ये मैटर है, अब हमें इसे अपने आप से रिलेट करना. That how this matter is formed, what is the process, what are the ingredients. तो जैसे 25 हमने पदार्थ गिने थे, उसमें वो बोलते हैं कि ये पदार्थ को अगर आप ठीक से एनालाइज करेंगे तो ये पदार्थ पंच महाभूतों के बने हैं. They are formed of 5 grosser elements, which are the elements which are formed by these combination of various codes, and they come into existence as visible existence or feelable existence or experienceable existence. So ये पंच महाभूत हम सब को ज्ञान है, क्योंकि आयुर्वेद में इसको काफी डिटेल में बताया गया है. तो ये हैं आकाश, वायु, अग्नि, जल एवं पृथ्वी. Now, if you just take it by meaning, literal meaning, it will not make sense. But try to understand that कि जो भी पदार्थ ने शेप लेनी है, आकार लेना, आकृति लेनी है, वो किसी न किसी जगह में होगा, किसी न किसी स्पेस में होगा. उसको कुछ ना कुछ जगह चाहिए. So that is space. Everything needs space and everything has space. जैसे सेल एक स्पेस के अंदर होगा और उस सेल के अंदर भी स्पेस होगा, और स्पेस के अंदर भी दूसरी चीज होगी, और उस दूसरी चीज के अंदर भी स्पेस होगा. यानी स्पेस इज मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर एग्जिस्टेंस. या आकाश इज मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट. एंड देन वी हैव the air or the vayu. Now what is vayu? Vayu is a more grosser and condensed form of the space. So if you now try to stepwise, everything is getting more and more condensed, more gross and more visible. Now Vayu is the one which keeps everything inflated in its shape. Otherwise, if you don't give Vayu there, it becomes vacuum and collapse. So that's why Vayu is important in every aspect. Whether it is the blood composition, it will also have gases. Otherwise, the blood will not remain blood. It will collapse into plasma and into the cells and all these things. The next is Agni. Now, without the Agni, if you say is the temperature or the heat, बिना अग्नि के वायु का उस कंडेंस्ड फॉर्म में रहना असंभव होगा. वो कोलैप्स हो जाएगी, कंडेंस होके वो एक सॉलिड का रूप ले लेगी. सो जब तक आपका वो उसमें हीट नहीं होगी, उसमें अग्नि नहीं होगी, तो वो अपने फॉर्म में नहीं रह सकती. And then comes the next, that is Apa or Jala or the water. So unless the fluidity is there, the flow will not be there. Like air will go up, it will vanish, it will be difficult. So as to trap it and give a medium or a media to for movement everywhere. कहाँ उसको ले जाना है, कैसे पहुँचाना है, उसके लिए कोई और भी ग्रॉसर फॉर्म हमें चाहिए. वो ही जल इसका काम करता है. यानी कि हर जो महाभूत हम बताए जा रहे हैं उसमें पिछले महाभूत इंक्लूडेड हैं, उसमें हैं. अगर वो नहीं होंगे तो ये नहीं बन पाएगा. तो आकाश से वायु, वायु से अग्नि, अग्नि से जल और जल से पृथ्वी. यानी कि जब सारी चीजें कंबाइन होकर ठोस एक सॉलिड फॉर्म में आपको नजर आती है, दैट इज पृथ्वी. That means every matter or organic matter visible to us is Prithvi. Now Prithvi has got all other 4 gross elements. Now as per the Sankhya Yoga, these gross elements will have the gunas, or it will have certain kind of energy embedded in them so as to perform the functions. So each of these Mahabhutas will have gunas, and everything created out of these Mahabhutas will also have gunas. These are Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas is a whole philosophy, and to understand that you need to understand a lot of it. But suffice to say that we can correspond it as per the modern physicist into three energies और ऊर्जा जिसे हम हिंदी में कहते हैं. ये उसके एक समांतर और उससे समानता हम पा सकते हैं. जैसे इनर्शियल एनर्जी जो आप में एनर्जी एम्बेडेड है, जो कि आपके इट इज बाय वर्च्यू ऑफ योर पोजीशन, दैट इज इनर्शियल एनर्जी. दैट मीन्स it will not allow you to do anything unless external force is applied on it. That is Newtonic physics. It is known to everybody. And then the next energy form is the potential energy, which everything possesses it, and when stimulus is given, it performs its function in form of next energy, that is kinetic energy. So the inertial energy is the tamas. It doesn't do in itself. It holds you back. It puts you down and नीचे आपको कोई इंटेलिजेंस नहीं देती है, वो आपको रोक के रखती है एक जगह पे, जो प्रोहिबिटरी फोर्स है. The potential given by the God, or the potential energy, is the sattva energy, and the prakriti, when impels it, makes it move, makes it take akar or shape, then it is kinetic energy. So now we have understood that every element will have these three energies. Without this, nothing will happen. So whole of this universe is interplay of these five Mahabhutas, having these three gunas, interacting with each other and manifesting into various forms. जब हमें पंच महाभूतों का पता चल गया, तो इसका मतलब हर जीवन, every life is formed out of these panch mahabhutas, and one of them are humans. Everything is there, one of them is human. So now अब हम जान गए कि एक जो ह्यूमन बॉडी है, ये भी एक पंच महाभूतों की और तीन गुणों का एक आकार है, जो कि पुरुष ने प्रकृति के जरिए बनाया. और यही चीज सभी बाकी वस्तुओं पे भी लागू है. तो अब हम जाने कि शरीर, जैसे उस दिन हमने देखा था कि इसके 5 कोश हैं. अब हम उन 5 कोशों का प्रकृति के साथ इंटरेक्शन देखेंगे, यानी कि हम प्राकृतिक रूप से बने हैं और जो हमारे चारों तरफ प्राकृतिक एनवायरनमेंट है, उससे हमारा इंटरप्ले किस तरह से होता है और किस तरह से वो हमें इफेक्ट करता है. तो यानी कि जीवन जो है वो क्या है, उसका क्या ध्येय है, उसमें दुखों के क्या कारण हैं और दुखों के निवारण का क्या प्रकार, किस प्रकार से हम दुखों का निवारण कर सकते हैं. दिस इज द एसेंस ऑफ सांख्य योगा. दैट्स व्हाई इट इज सो intriguing and it is so interesting and it is so accepted. So जो हमारे शरीर के अंग हमने देखे थे, एक तो शरीर हमारा है जिसमें इंद्रियां हैं, इंद्रियों के जो इंद्रिय के जो ऑर्गन्स हैं, सेंस ऑर्गन जिनको बोलते हैं, वो है जो पूरा शरीर जो हमें दिखता है, जिसको हम कर सकते हैं. दूसरा है उसका हिस्सा मनस. इसको प्राण को हम यहाँ कंसीडर नहीं कर रहे अभी, बिकॉज प्राण इज एसेंशियली एवरीवेयर इन एवरीथिंग. सो विल सी मनस. द नेक्स्ट पार्ट इज द मनस, और दैट मनोमय कोश, मनस. एंड देन वी हैव द विज्ञानमय कोश, और वी कॉल इट बुद्धि, or we call it Vijnanamay Kosh, or we call it the intellect in English. And beyond that we have something which is more subtle, and then it's called Atma, which is beyond this, which is going sometime. So now let us just consider these three things which are very, very prominently visible to us and understood by us. That is, first let's take on the body. So this body is taken as a vehicle or equipment to perform various actions as destined or as coded by the Purusha through Prakriti. It is put into place. So where does it perform its action? This vehicle equipment has to do something. Karma karne hain usme. Kahan karma karta? What is the field in which it acts? That field in which it acts is the field of objects or the Vishay Karak. Yani ki every sense organ will have its field to operate, and that field where it operates is the objects, whatever you interact with. I am an object for you. Your house is an object for you. Your motor vehicle is an object for you. A tree is an object. So everything which is perceivable through the senses, is all the field in which this has to operate. Then the manas. Manas also is a vehicle or equipment which operates in certain field, and that field in which it operates is called emotions. Emotions, sukh, dukh, acha, bura, rag, dvesh, all these sentiments, all these emotions. In this the mind works. And the third faculty or third kosha, which we are considering grossly, which we every day feel, is the buddhi or the intellect. It works in the field of thoughts. विचारों के जो फील्ड है उसमें ये काम करता है. मुझे नया कुछ सीखना चाहिए, या मुझे ये कर्म करना चाहिए, ये सब विचार जो हैं ये बुद्धि उन विचारों में काम करती है. So now we have understood that there is a gross form of life which constitutes of a body, which constitutes of a mind, and also constitutes of a intellect. It operates in the fields of the objects, emotions, and the thoughts. Now, we have understood this life operating like this. By why is it operating? There has to be some aim, some dhai. Why is it operating like this? It has to reach somewhere. So they say the communion or the moksha, wherein we commune with the code which was given to us. We bind with the code which was given to us by the Purusha or the Creator. Whatever code was given, if we go back to that and bind with that, that is the aim of life. Whole of the life, you can see this. The cycle goes in that fashion. So to reach that aim, there are path enunciated in our, that I was mentioning in our granthas, so where we say dharma, karma, kam, arth, moksha. So moksha is the aim or the target where we want to reach, and that moksha is when you are satiated, fully satisfied, you have no disturbances, and you can continuously or continually at least remain in that state of satiation. So धर्म पे हम पहले चर्चा कर चुके हैं, कर्म पे हम चर्चा कर चुके हैं. इसको एक्सप्लेन मैं बाद में डिटेल में भी करूंगा जब हम आयुर्वेद के दूसरे चरण में आएंगे, सांख्य वेद के तो दर्शन के, उसमें फिर मैं आपको दोबारा एक्सप्लेन भी करूंगा. पहले हम जान लें कि जब हमने हमारा मोक्ष का एम है तो जो उसका रास्ता है उसमें जो वेरिएशंस हैं नेचर से वो ही दुख है. तो यानी कि सांख्य योग का जो एम है वो दुखों की जानकारी, उनके कारण की जानकारी और उनके निवारण के ऊपर ज्यादा ध्यान देता है. अब दुखों का कारण उसमें बताए गए हैं, क्या क्या दुखों के कारण, और आप अगर ध्यान से सोचेंगे तो शायद यही कारण है दुखों के, और कोई कारण नहीं. तो दुखों के प्रकार पहले देख लें. अधिभौतिक, अधिदैविक और आध्यात्मिक. इन द सेंस दोज रिलेटेड टू द फिजिकल ग्रॉस फॉर्म those which are there because of the nature or the prakriti, like बहुत ज़्यादा धूप में लोगों का मर जाना या परेशान हो जाना, लू लगने से मर जाना, this is all natural which is happening. And adhyatmic, the philosophical pains, because we are not understanding or knowing the right philosophy, we continue to undergo agonies because of that. And other two of these dukkha, like the adhyatmic and the daivik, they actually manifest through the bhautik only, the physical only. It will be manifested from in the body. So that's why I was emphasizing that knowing body is very important, because you will only know then that what type of dukkha you are undergoing, or once you have identified dukkha, once you identified that, then only you will be able to identify the way to overcome it, how to overcome that. So let us know, we have known what is dukkha. Now let us understand what is the reason for this dukkha. I had put a kind of reason in our WhatsApp chat also. Krishna has very, very well defined, identified this process of getting into dukkha. And in the modern science also you'll be able to relate it very well. So he says the reason for dukkha is the vishayon ka chintan. When you continue to keep an object in mind, it leads to attachment with it. If it is always there in your sight, in your mind, you get attached to it. आसक्ति उत्पन्न हो जाती है. उस आसक्ति के उत्पन्न होने से उस विषय की कामना उत्पन्न हो जाती है. You start to get desires for that. और उन कामनाओं में विघ्न पड़ने से, when these desires are not fulfilled, as I was mentioning about this prashansa, when they are not fulfilled, we tend to get angry or frustrated. और उस क्रोध से स्मृति भ्रम उत्पन्न होता है. The memory, which is the cause of all your emotions, all your actions, gets corrupted. It is not placed in order with the inferences. So the state of confusion arises. उससे मूढ़ बुद्धि उत्पन्न होती है. और मूढ़ बुद्धि में विवेकहीनता, it is not the discriminatory power in the confused state of the intellect. You cannot discriminate between right and wrong. And when the power of discrimination is no more there, the decision making is impaired, it goes wrong. And the wrong decisions are the cause of downfall of the human. And that downfall causes dukkhas. It causes the agony, pain and miseries in the body and mind, which are felt visibly through the roga. Some people have hypertension, some people will have, in the modern parlance or modern terms, you call it, he is hyperglycemic, or all these things start happening. Now we have known the reason for these dukkhas, and now we need to know how to overcome these dukkhas. Once you overcome them, then you will reach moksha sthiti, or the state of blissfulness, state of satiation, you will reach. Now in the modern parlance, if I try to explain this, the reason for dukkha, now please see this, that what is happening in today's life, why these dukkhas are coming, that the senses which are supposed to be working in the field of objects has got reversed. The objects are dominating, dictating the senses to perform. I keep giving example of this television. If you have in a house, you enter a party and you have a whole big screen going on one side with the TV on, you will notice that people, instead of talking, greeting, they start looking at the TV. They start looking at the TV. And that indicates the force of that object, not television. This television is dominating our senses. Sense of hearing, sense of sight, sense of satiation. It's dominating. So whatever conversations you wanted to do in that gathering, you are not able to do because you are dominated by an object. And so many more. When you enter a relationship, you speak to somebody, your sense is looking at his expressions, and you are looking at the environment he is sitting or talking in. You are looking at his body language and the way he is expressing. We are not understanding the essence or the intent behind his speech. We are not understanding anything. So the object or physical object is dominating your sense, and you perceive that he is not a good man, or he's a bad, whatever, or he's a good man. That's how the objects are becoming more strong, or so we are becoming, the senses are becoming more and more weak, and we get dominated by the objects. When we go in front of a mirror, we start to see our clothes. How am I looking in this cloth? Now the cloth is an object which is dominating you. Instead, a mirror is for your, checking your vitals. How are you? How is your body performing? That is the reason for the mirror. And it is not for looking at the cloth. So this is how the objects are dominating you. And these objects, once fully dominating, you lose the sense of perception. How you perceive them, you lose that. And organs start to dominate. The senses are not able to discriminate between what is required to be seen, what is not required to be seen, what is conveyed to the intellect, what not be conveyed. They lose that power. They have lost that power in the modern days. And that is the reason of one dukh. Then similarly we go into the field of emotions of our mind. Again we have preconceived thoughts, the preconceived emotions. Like present situation of the COVID. Just all of it is bearing so much on our minds that it is pandemic. My daughter was telling me yesterday, Papa, it is pandemic. This whole world has been engulfed by this. This is an emotion created out of just the existing emotions in the society. In fact, if you start to feel actually sitting in an isolated place and thinking that there was no information about this COVID, then you will find there is no COVID and there is no sense of depression. There is nothing there. So that means these emotions are dominating our mind. Manas, the faculty of emotion or the mind, is being dominated by the existing emotions, and that is have bearing on our body. It is reflecting everywhere. Similarly, the thoughts. That these thoughts have got no relationship at all with you. No relationship. But we start to get these thoughts and it starts to influence our intellect, our buddhi. We start to take decisions that way. We don't analyze. We get dominated by the thoughts. So the domination by the present day Vishaya, the objects, on the perceptions, or the somebody who's perceiving, the effect of these emotions on the feeler of these emotions, the effect of these thoughts on the thinker of these thoughts is causing dukkhas. In fact, the nature has made our body, mind and intellect to perceive what we want to perceive, to feel what we want to feel as emotions, and to think what we want to think as a thinker. So the perceiver, feeler and the thinker is no more acting. They are all dominated by their fields. So it is to be reversed. We must start to identify ourselves with our senses, make the senses dominate the objects and decide what to be done with them. We should use our mind to generate emotions and then feel like that. We should use our intellect to generate the thoughts and then propagate that, and not the vice versa. That is a Jnana Yoga. That is Jnana Yoga. This is how this should work. But it isn't. ये इस तरह से काम नहीं कर रहा, और यही दुखों का कारण है. अब इन दुखों के निवारण का हम एक तरीका अब हम इसमें ढूंढेंगे, जो कि सांख्य योग में भी दिया हुआ. जो लोग सांख्य योग को पूर्ण रूप से उसी रूप में, यथा रूप में ही प्रयोग में लाते हैं अपने अपने प्रैक्टिकल एस्पेक्ट्स में, वो वैष्णव कहलाते हैं. यानी कि वॉट एवर नेचुरली इज अकरिंग, नेचुरोपैथी और वैष्णव, like we have Jainism and all, Jainism based on the Vaishnava Paddhati. So that is Vaishnava. Exactly, you are just working on that intelligence, subtle form of intelligence called Purusha. You are just concentrating on that, thinking it to be you, and that's how entirely you submit yourself to that. That is Vaishnavism. And there is other way to try to understand the thing from the essence of it, जिसे तत्व ज्ञान हम कहते हैं, and then try to modulate our body, mind and intellect so as to get in tune with that Purusha or Prakriti, through Prakriti. That is Shivaism. अब आप अगर ध्यान से सिर्फ इन दोनों चीजों को सोचें, वैष्णविज्म और शिवाइज्म, तो आप देखेंगे विष्णु की आकृति जो आपको दिखती है वो एक शिथिल, it is a static form and just waiting for things to happen. You see the iconography. He's just waiting for things to happen, and he's there into the intelligence form of this subtle form of intelligence. But you see Shiva, you find him sitting somewhere like this, somewhere with the Trishula like this, and somewhere you will find it. Various forms you will find. So he's trying to, it is trying to convey that you got to modify, change yourself after you have got grossly into these fields, so that you get in alignment back to Prakriti and Purusha. So there are two ways. The Vaishnavism, when it translates into the Darshan Shastra, the Yoga Darshan, which came propounded by Patanjali later on, it's actually Vaishnavism. It is working on the abstracts. It is working on the subtles, formless things. Yoga Darshan. If you read Patanjali Yoga Darshan, it's sadhana pad. He gives out a path to achieve that samadhi. State of samadhi also is given, that what is state of samadhi, which I generally told you, it is the moksha, प्राप्ति. मोक्ष आपने ले लिया, you are समाधि में हैं आप. उस समाधि को प्राप्त करने के तरीके भी उन्होंने बताए. अगर आप उसमें पढ़ेंगे ध्यान से, when we say yoga कर रहे हैं, Patanjali has not mentioned even one yoga asana in his yoga darshan. He said asana means a posture which gives you sukha. That is adequate. That is end of it. Nothing more than that he is giving. That means he is relying wholly on your Anandamaya Kosh, Vijnanamaya Kosh, maximum up to, Pranamaya Kosh. He is not thinking, or even pranayama also he has not told about this, how to do this pranayama, kitna saans le jana, kitna choda. He has not mentioned anything about it. He just mentions you should do pranayam. Pranayam is controlling the inward and outward movements of what? Of thoughts. विचारों का आदान प्रदान आपने उसके ऊपर कंट्रोल कर. That is pranayam. That is the definition by Patanjali. And then there is another yoga that's called Hatha Yoga, which was propounded by, they say, Adi Shiva himself, because he is more modern God. He is more modern, identification of our creation. So probably the Kali Yuga was coming, and then he had to, devise some means to stay in league, in line with the nature. So that's why. So from there was Gorakhnath, and then Naugarnath, and then Swatmaram, and then Matsyanand, and all these people. So Swatmaram ji wrote one Pradipika that is called Hatha Yoga Pradipika. In that he mentions about what we are doing today as yoga. So it is Hatha Yoga. So one way to get rid of the dukkha is the Yoga Shastra, Yoga Darshan, or doing yoga, that is efforts, physical efforts, by doing physical efforts. And the other way is by knowing the way this body, this mind, this intellect works, and trying to influence the functioning so that they have controlled effect of these fields on them. So that is called Ayurvigyan, Ayurveda. So now we have understood that what is, as per the Sankhya Yoga, what is life? How does it get created? How does it get out into a form which is visible? That is through Purusha, which is existing everywhere in a very subtle, invisible, limitless, timeless form, which lends itself to the Prakriti to manifest itself into a form which is visible, perceivable, known, limited by space, time, and the Akar. And we have also known that how does they get formed? Through Panch Mahabhutas. And then we have known that these Panch Mahabhuta manifest themselves with 3 gunas into various forms, and these forms are called life, Jivan. And this life essentially has got 3 things in it. It is body, mind and intellect. And it has got field of object, emotions and thoughts to operate in. Right operation by these in the fields will prevent dukkhas, and domination of these by the fields will cause dukkhas. The cause of creation of the dukkha is also very well propounded, as I told you, very well defined in Gita, that Vishnu ka chintan, chintan se asakti, asakti se moho, moho se कामना, कामना से क्रोध, क्रोध से मूढ़ बुद्धि और स्मृति भ्रम, मूढ़ बुद्धि और विवेकहीनता, they are causing it. So now we know what is life, what is dukkha, how it is caused. So that is what the Sankhya Yoga is. It is very, very crisply summarized, so that we just know. We will understand it more and more and more when we start to use it in our life, everyday life, when we start to discuss all these things. As Anshul was mentioning, that we must understand and discuss about this COVID and its effect. We will have all such topics after this, because unless you know the place where it is germinating from, what is the environment required, you cannot place a seed and you cannot grow a tree. So I'm trying to create a fertile ground where we will sow that seed of life science, and which will have a clear vision of all of you, so that you understand how it works and how we can create an environment which will be conducive for our functioning. So that is the reason. Now, so hope this Sankhya Yoga has given you some kind of idea of our existence and its relationship with the Prakriti and the Purusha, which is cosmic intelligence. Slowly, I'll keep telling you about the modern physicist view on this, how they are relating to it, and how the Gyan or Vijnanamaya faculty of ours gets more and more satiated with this sentience of the Purusha inside us. I'll keep telling you all this. Today, I think we have utilized quota of our time. So we will try to finish it off here, culminate it here, and after this we will get into as per the decisions of yours, whether we go first into the Ayurveda or we get into the Yoga Shastra. Either of them we can take on as a topic, and I will personally feel that we should take on the yoga first, because that is the ideal way to keep in league, in line, in the consonance with nature. So we'll take on first that, and then we will go on to the Ayurveda. Now, before I leave, this concept of time has to be understood, that time is not 10 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Time in the Sankhya Yoga, the Vedic science, is differently calculated, and it is not related to anything. It is just time is a circular thing. It is not a linear thing. It is a circular thing, and circular means, like Krishna has expounded that समय की गति बहुत गहन है और उसको जानना बहुत आवश्यक है. He says कि समय क्या है? समय is that 4000 चौकड़ी युग का एक ब्रह्मा का काल, 1000 काल का एक दिवस, और उतने ही काल के एक रात्रि, ब्रह्मा रात्रि. यानी कि he is mentioning that it is 10 million years is one cycle of life. And now you can relate to the earth life. See how in 10 million years back it would have come into shape through destruction, like when we say Shiva is destroyed, and then Vishnu getting it out and requesting Brahma to manifest it into the form again, and the life coming back to again, then the Yuga starting, the Satya Yuga, the Dwapar Yuga, the Treta Yuga, and the Kali Yuga, and again the cycle will go back. So it is like year, months are coming and going. Similarly, it is a Yuga, and the Yuga is approximately what he says is around 4,800 years or so is one Yuga. It varies depending upon the cycle which it takes, and it is a scientific reason they are giving it. He says कि कोई भी नक्षत्र, कोई भी heavenly body स्थिर नहीं है. Even the sun is not static. It is also orbiting some bigger sun. This movement of sun along with its orbiting planets or the solar system causes this yuga to change. Like movement of earth around the sun causes seasons to happen, similarly movement of sun around its whole heavenly body, wherever it is moving, also causes similar kind of effect. And that's why you find a change in the habitation of various planets. We know about earth very well, that how things are changing. So when we start to read this, we should not consider that all to be mythology. It is all Vijnana. So that's why the Jnana. That's why we must know before we discard anything as mythology, or consider it to be history or science. That's why the Jnana Yoga ka महत्व. So यहाँ मैं I think I have finished with the Sankhya Yoga. This much I think is adequate for us to understand. And thank you very much.